There we go.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so sorry, man. It's been a crazy, crazy day.
Well, all that matters is you're here now,
Yeah, man.
and we're going to have some fun, I hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so first item of business Vinnie Smith. Smith, right? It's,
That's kind of awesome. That's as close as most people get, really.
yeah, yeah,
She shall ski. She shall.
Ciesielski.
Yeah, it's easy.
Oh my
But
gosh,
the
just like it's
wicked.
spelled.
Oh yeah, exactly. Listen, I get a lot of the "Are you related to Coach K?" thing all the time, but not so much. It's not even close. And the funny thing about it is, uh, I've heard every Polak joke in it, right? And I don't have a drop of Polish blood in me. My dad was adopted, and his birth name was Biancanelli.
Oh
So,
gosh,
can you
nowhere
imagine?
close.
Imagine if you like owed me money. Like, hey man, this is Vinnie Biancanelli. Where's my money? You'd be like coming to my house with cash. Probably best that I don't have that handle because
Yeah,
be a little nervous.
Ciesielski. So when I was in the service, I was in the Air Force, and my sergeant was in charge of me, KRZYWDA. That was his last name.
I can't even.
Well, but you just mentioned Polish, and I would have people call in as Sergeant Crazywater there, Sergeant Quizwita, right? And it was Shivda, right? So it's one of those things, and no matter how long you look at it, you're still trying to figure out the phonetics of everything. So,
We were checking. I was on tour. We were checking into a resort, one of the casino resorts. I think it was with Lyle, and and I walked up to the counter, and there was this pretty young lady, and she had a very heavy Eastern European accent. And she said, what's your name? And I said, Vinnie Ciesielski. And she proceeded to tell me how I was mispronouncing my own name because she was from Poland. And she told me the history of the name and what it meant. The amazing thing is it's just, we don't say it that far off, but it's Ciesielski, and it means person that works with wood or carpenter or artist that works.
oh,
My dad is a world-renowned wildfowl carving artist. Just, just crazy.
seriously,
Yeah. He's real. He's kind of famous inside that realm. He
yeah.
carves songbirds and the atmosphere, and like he would go to competitions. The first 28 shows he went to, he won best in show, and then he retired because he was going to let other guys win. Just he's just really good, and that's what he does for a living now.
Well, and you would shed the trumpet.
Exactly.
There you go. So you're not going to remember this, but where we met and played together was, and I don't know if it was Orchestra Kentucky at that point. It might have still been the Bowling Green Chamber
Bowling Green
Orchestra.
Chamber. Oh, nice.
And there's a small theater downtown
Oh yeah.
Bowling Green.
Like this, was it called the State or something?
Yeah, something just like that. Every town's got one of those,
Oh yeah,
right?
of course.
And we were doing some sort of soul. I don't even remember, but you were playing lead. I was playing second, and I just remember sitting there. I never met you before. I never had no idea who you were, and I'm sitting there in rehearsal thinking, "Oh, this guy's the real deal," you know.
I hope I was
And
nice.
you know what? And you were the nicest guy, and
Oh,
I really
wow.
appreciate that. But that was our experience, and I have to say that was probably early 2000s.
I want to tell you that might have been one of the concerts where um, Jimmy Bolin, who was a reed player, woodwind player, would go up there. He kind of got me on the gig, and
Hmm.
Jeff was a brilliant guy. He still is, really. And
Yeah.
the way that they market that orchestra with the pops concert, and then they throw in a little light classical, and you got to buy the whole thing, and you're like, hey man, we like that '80s music. Let's go hear some Mozart, and it's incredible. I mean, it's just so smart, and all the major orchestras, they don't want to admit it. Well, not all of them, but a lot of they don't want to admit it. But pops pays the bills, man.
Right.
Not everybody's going to go see all of the obscure, we're debuting a piece for klezmer, banjo, and full orchestra. Not everybody's going to go see that, right? Although here in Nashville, they probably would because of the diverseness. But I always thought Jeff had a great idea, and on one of those concerts, Jimmy and I had done. It was like sometimes they were Sundays and Mondays, and Jimmy and I had just done a weekend, a long, grueling weekend with the Four Tops and the Temptations, and those shows were just a booger, man. I don't know if you've ever played that show, but
No.
it's just, oh my goodness, it's Rocky punching you in the face with an anvil for 2 hours. That's basically what it is. Jeff stopped the orchestra. I don't know much about orchestra etiquette, but I do know that I've seen conductors go, there are some intonation issues in this area over here, knowing full well who it is. You know what I mean? So Jeff stops the orchestra and he says, calls me out by name, and he says, Vinny, I don't agree with your interpretation of the lick at bar 72. And it was a Temptations tune. It was like Ain't That
Oh
Got
yeah.
a Bag, or one of those stupid things that they
Right.
were doing.
Right.
Right? And he said, when listening to the recording, they played to whatever. He sang it, and I said, yes, sir. And I leaned forward to Jimmy Bolin, who happened to be sitting right in front of me, and I said, funny, that's not what the Temptations said. Blat.
Right.
And I really think Jeff may have heard me, you know what I mean? I'm so proud of what they've done with that organization, man. It's just,
It's amazing. It truly is amazing. And I've been down there enough to see the growth in that orchestra when other orchestras are diminishing
yeah.
their seasons, and they seem to keep adding services. And of course, they're drawing quality players from Louisville, Indy, Nashville, plenty of people from Nashville coming up. So, it's always a good show,
Very cool.
and typically a good hang. But Jeff's a trumpet player, right? So that's the reason he was picking on you.
I know he was a perennial fourth trumpet player with the church orchestra by which Orchestra Kentucky started. I think he made the
Ah,
right decision. He studied with a lot of different people, and he's really smart. And honestly, he probably was correct because he really listened to those recordings. It wasn't pop music didn't really go in him. You know what I mean? He's really more of a classical guy, and when he would try and sort of swing. You can swing playing funk, you can swing playing big band, you can swing. When he would try and swing, it always kind of came off as, you know what I mean? Which used to crack me up because he tried so hard. But the original recordings are much different than what the Temptations are doing these days. And in retrospect, 10 or 15 years later, I'm like, he's right. I haven't
mm,
listened to those original recordings in forever, and my interpretation of it has morphed to the point where it's just the way I play it. I have no idea what the original, he was probably right on the money. And
yeah,
I wish I'd had the presence of mind to just go, oh shoot, man, I haven't listened to that in forever. Thank you so much, and shut
right,
up and move on down the road, like
right,
you're supposed to do.
right. So, isn't it funny though how those horn sections? I wonder if Tower of Power and Earth, Wind and Fire, if those guys all kind of evolve from those beginning recordings. If it's just it changes on this show slightly, and then the next show, and then the next, by the time you get, like you're saying, by the time you get to where you are now, it might be night and day.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And they, they've actually changed the arrangement. Still a Young Man, when Mick Gillette played it, at the end of the song went E to G to E. Now they've taken it down an inversion because that show is impossible for a human being to play. Mick
Mhm.
was just such a gifted and freakish player for that style of music.
Mhm.
Um, there's not many people around that could do that in night. And when they're out, 200 shows a year. I mean, they are
Seriously,
hitting it
still.
hard, dude. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's amazing. I mean, obviously not these days, but it's
Right.
really amazing. And speaking of Tower of Power, they let Marcus. What's Marcus's last name?
Print it?
No, the
No,
lead
no, not
singer,
Marcus.
Marcus. He's from Memphis. He's the best lead singer they've had since the very first one. I mean, he was
Mm.
just incredible. They let him go, kind of
Wow.
unceremoniously, like via email. So strange, man, because I love those guys so much. And Marcus Scott.
Mm.
Check him out, man. If you don't have, he's got a solo record. Whew, Lord have mercy, that kid is he's something else, man. He really
Yeah,
is special,
yeah,
very special cat.
yeah.
So what are you doing? What are you doing currently to get through this
Oh
man?
my gosh, nobody has ever asked that question. You know, over 100 interviews, I've been the one asking all the questions, and nobody's ever asked me that. I've been conducting interviews. That's what I've been doing.
Good for you.
Honestly, March 13th, right? The world shut down around March 13th.
Yep.
And long about middle of April, I'm thinking, I got to seize this opportunity.
Yeah.
And I got between April and the beginning of August, 50 interviews.
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean, I was
Oh my
on it.
gosh. That's like every other day or a couple times a day in
There were days where I was doing two, and a couple of times I was doing three interviews a day.
that is fantastic.
And I love doing it.
Yeah.
Now I took a lot of time off the horn,
Oh,
right? I mean, I don't know if you're smiling, right? We're in the same boat, probably on
well,
that. But
listen, man, I'm one of those guys. I have some things going on with my physiology that I cannot take time off. I
mm,
really cannot take time off. I had in let's see, 2019, I had a complete left shoulder replacement. And I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I was in super good shape when I went into the operation, both with my chops and
hmm
with my physical infrastructure. And I said to the doctor, I said to the surgeon, I said, "Hey man, I want to be able to play right away." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, sure, no problem." I said, "Okay, great." And so when I woke up from the operation, I had told him I wanted it hiked up so that I could, at least kind of, and it wasn't quite right. And the nurse that was in recovery was like, "Okay, it's time for you to go home." And I was like, "Okay, well, I need to have this adjusted." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, tomorrow morning I'm going to be practicing my trumpet." And she was like, uh, no. And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I talked about it with the doctor." And they actually called the doctor. I get on the phone with the doctor, and he's like, "You mean right away?" And I said, "Yeah, I got it set up, man. I've got a Schulman system that sits on my chest, and I'm going to play." And the day, I was high as a rear end on the day of the operation. But the next day, first thing in the morning, I took a pain pill, put some ice on my arm, and I was doing long tones. I just I can't afford to take any time off because I suck. And the thing is that and what I'm very fortunate. I just want to preface this with I am a very hardworking person. Um, but I am very, very lucky. I don't know. I got a thimbleful of talent about that big, and I've
mm,
maximized it. But the sessions for us and the way that we do business for that first month were they shut it down. You know,
right.
everybody was scared. Nobody knew what was going on. I am still nervous and respectful of the virus. I mask up every time I go out. I maintain social distancing. I do my best in every situation to be as safe as I can because I'm not worried about myself because I'm in good shape. I worry about people like my dad, who's a cancer survivor. My mom, who's a cancer survivor. They're 80 some years old, and even though they're 500 miles away, I want the version of me that lives there to wear a mask so that they don't make them sick.
Yeah.
Um, but sessions have been off the chain for us. I mean, it has been wonderful. This week we're doing, if we could work the way that we record, we can really only do about 3 or 4 hours a day because it's a small section. I stack myself on each pass 5 or 6 times.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a bunch of high Q flats all the way down to just two passes of flugelhorn. And 4 hours of that is just, beating yourself to death. So we've got right now we've got 6 or 8 projects in the queue, and we just go in every day at 11 o'clock. We carve away, we do a song, and then I'll see you tomorrow, and have a good day. It's pretty awesome. So
So
go ahead.
one trumpet on the session.
One trumpet on the session, and what I do is I take upwards of 4 B flat trumpets, and two flugelhorns, all with different setups. Uh, I've got my Adams A4LT, which is a big, dark, buttery sound and perfect for that fourth guy that is kind of saving himself for the jazz solos, in a big band. You know that guy. I can play that guy. I can't do the jazz solos, unfortunately, but I can replicate that tone. It's a little darker and it's a little warmer. And then I have my Blackburn setups, and I've got three different ones of those, including one. I got it right here, as a matter of fact. Mike Del Quattro
Oh
just
yeah.
just did a conversion on this thing where you loose this and you loose this, and the bell comes off.
Hmm.
It's not tunable. It's just a modular, and I have an Eclipse sterling silver bell that just lights the room on fire.
Nice.
So I switched that up and stacked myself. And we're also doing mostly head charts. So we're creating the parts as we go. So we'll do 8 bars, get a real good solid lead line, harmonize it, put the flugelhorns on, and then put the sparkle on top. But it is it's a lot of contemporary gospel. So it's higher, faster, louder, almost all.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's HFL, Studio HFL, man.
that's exactly right. Very nice.
Well, that's where it originated. Of course, now it stands for Hear from Legends.
Right.
So, what you're describing, I've heard about this before. Where like down in Muscle Shoals, they would go in and there would be no charts, and they'd get the tune and they'd work out the lick, and then they'd harmonize it.
Yep.
And is that what you're talking about doing?
Yeah,
Is there much written for you when you walk in? I lost you. So let me ask that question again, and we'll get back into that. Okay, so I was talking about Muscle Shoals. When you walk into the studio, do you have anything in front of you? You mentioned a head chart, but anything written out?
So I've been very fortunate since I got to Nashville in 1992. I'm coming up on 6,000 recordings. For a great long part of my career, they would set a chart on the stand. We would sight read it like we'd been playing it for 20 years and loving it for 20 years and really, feeling the song. And then we would stack it. That's 5 or 6 piece horn section. And we would stack those, and it just sounded like a truck coming down the highway, just
Nice.
really, really incredible stuff. Um, as time went by and budgets started to morph a little bit, and the model started to change, the sections got a little bit smaller. So if you wanted to have a bigger sound, you would have to stack. Um, it's funny you mentioned Muscle Shoals because I've been playing down there with those guys since '93,
Oh,
and I've done hundreds of records at Fame and the old Muscle Shoals Sound and the River and all that kind of stuff. I go down a couple of times a month. Um, Charles Rose used to write all the charts, handwritten, beautiful, big, giant notes, like whole notes that were like this big. So if you made a mistake, it was not the chart. It was definitely you. And I learned so much about playing in a horn section. And I mean, this guy, if he wrote a short note, if he wrote a rooftop on a note, he wanted it short. And if you didn't play it short, you got the, look down the section at you kind of thing. And so
right,
it really made me keenly aware of how you need to interpret those things the very first time you read them. So
right.
now what we're doing is we're doing a 2 or 3 piece section. Again, because of budget and the amount of money that we personally would like to make when we go in the studio. So if you have a song, you want horns on it, first of all, you would do it yourself, but short of that, send it to me. This morning we went in at 11 o'clock, and that's the first time we'd ever listened to the song. And we listen down to get the vibe, and then we start carving away. And between the two of us, Tyler Summers is my go-to saxophone player. He plays and engineers. I handle most of the client work, as you can imagine, with the nonstop talking. And we carve away. And he comes from a real hard, very serious North Texas jazz background. And I've been playing pop and R&B and gospel and that stuff for 40 years out of my career. So I kind of bring that sensibility. So he plays a bunch of notes. I take two or three of them out. I play a pentatonic thing. He adds something really super cool to it. It's such a great combination. We record that. Then oftentimes what we'll do is we'll double it exactly, and he'll go down an octave on the tenor, and then we'll put the harmonies in, and then I do two passes of flugelhorn, one on the lead, one on the harmony, and then we put high stuff on there, if take the whole thing up an octave if necessary, which is almost always the case. It's almost always, probably just because I'm a trumpet player, but you know, there are gospel kids picking up the trumpet and playing their first notes after having listened to these records, not just me, but all these guys, Steve Patrick and Mike Haynes and all those guys that have been doing it forever, and playing their first notes and going, wait a minute, how in the world does that work? So yeah.
Right.
So yeah, these days I would say we're doing more without charts, doing the head charts, making them up and creating them as we go, which is it's super exciting because it's something different every day.
Well, I was just going to ask, you know, is there a problem with originality on the licks?
No, you know, some of the stuff that we do, I'll kind of keep on concentrating on the contemporary gospel thing. Some producers call me and say straight traditional gospel, and I go back so far with this stuff, you know, Shirley Caesar and Rance Allen and the Clark sisters and all that old school stuff where it was boom, boobity bam, you know, and that was on every record. Now that we're sort of drifting into neo soul and the genre is morphing forward, we definitely have to be more creative. And when we're doing back-to-back sessions, you have to make sure that you're not putting the same licks. Because, you know, if you're doing a traditional gospel tune, there are certain things that really, really, really work. But
Right.
we try and stay away from repeating ourselves too much. I'm sure, though, if you listen to our body of work, good Lord, there's probably a lick or two that's on every record we've ever done.
Well, it's not like Maynard didn't do a shake on every tune that he ever did, right?
I try and squeeze those in as often as I can. Again, just for the out of the 100,000 people that are going to hear that, the 15 trumpet players will really love it.
Yeah. So you say 40 years out of your career, you've been doing this. So you started when you were 6?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been playing trumpet since I was 9. I'm 57 right now. I've been in Nashville since I was 92. So what's that? Since 92. I would look really good for 120.
Yeah, you sure would.
So 28 years now.
Mhm,
Is that what that
mhm.
is? 28 years, and man, I'll tell you, it's just been incredible. It's always I've done that balance of, when I first moved to town, they said, well, you either got to tour or you got to do sessions, because the contractors want to know that you're going to be there when they call, and if you're out on tour, they're just going to move down the line. And so as my career went on, it sort of morphed because the session world got a little bit smaller. There's a lot of work. There really is a tremendous amount of work. We'll probably wind up, during this COVID year, we'll probably wind up doing 200 in our studio, which is just tremendous. And I'm humbled by it. Believe me, I'm not saying it to be braggadocious, but it's just a fact, you know.
Well, that's great. I mean, and it's okay to say that, right? I mean, it's nice that somebody's getting
not
that.
bragging if it's the truth, right?
Right.
So yeah, I was very fortunate to be introduced to a fellow named Lloyd Berry. Lloyd is kind of the godfather of gospel strings and horns. And the first session I ever did with him was one of the most intimidating things I've ever done. Gary Armstrong, who used to be kind of the utility guy with Nashville. Big burly guy, beard, neck beard all the way down. I mean, just like, and he's sitting there. Studio doesn't have any air conditioning. He's got a pair of black shorts, this is how I remember it. It probably didn't happen that way. A wife beater, trumpet between his legs, and his legs just spread wide, and he's just blowing double G's. And I walk in and I go, "Hey man, how's it going?" And he goes, kind of grunted at me. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And but I probably have done 2,000 or more records with Lloyd, and
Wow.
just really credit him with introducing me into a world where I normally wouldn't be accepted. You know, if I walked in the door, even with my horn, um, and played, it would take a long time to be accepted into that world, because we had the facade of the studio and being the sort of this faceless brand back then, because there wasn't the internet and all that stuff or there wasn't social media in the 90s. You know what I mean? Um, I would walk into the room and meet artists for the first time, and they would really be floored by my appearance. And so Lloyd really started me down the road, and I was and still am fiercely loyal to him. He's still working, although he's kind of working on the new model where he cuts all the trumpets himself and sends it over to a saxophone player and put it together, and then shoot it on down the road. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so people who might not know what you look like, I mean, your appearance is nothing out of the norm, right? I mean, you've got earrings, but beyond that, I mean, it's, unless you wear a kilt to sessions, I mean, is that,
I have not been known to wear a kilt, and
yeah,
and back in the day, I was 100 pounds heavier. So that's been a huge part of the turnaround,
hmm hmm
playing wise and attitude wise and just life in general wise,
hmm
is losing that and keeping it off and making health and fitness a huge part of my existence, and being a huge proponent of encouraging other people to do that. I mean, very, very gratifying. About 10 or 15 years ago, when social media first kind of came into my consciousness, I I decided to start posting about my journey. June of 1999, 313 pounds. The doctor said, literally, quote, "You're fat and you're going to die." And that was enough of a wake up call for me. He followed it by, my son was 8 years old at the time. He said, if you want to see him graduate high school, get married, have babies, lose 60 pounds, and then lose 40 more. And stop, he said, stop messing around. Only the language was a little more colorful. I
Right.
love that guy. He was awesome. And I did. I started on my journey, and through proper diet and exercise, and drinking tons of water, and getting the infrastructure together. And again, at 57, best shape of my life.
That's awesome.
Yesterday I jumped on the trainer, which is over. I don't know if you can see it. It's over there, indoor bike on the Zwift, and then I went downstairs and out to my pool and swam 500 or 1,000 yards, whatever it was. Just incredible. I mean,
Nice.
just the fact that I have the trainer and the pool and I play trumpet is incredible.
So I got to ask you, Wayne Bergeron actually talked about this. He had lost some weight, and there's a lot of other players out there who have lost weight, and it has seriously affected their chops.
Yeah.
Did you encounter any of that along that journey?
Here's what happened for me. I decided at the very beginning. I had a really good. I think I had a really good sensibility about it. And here's what I figured. I struggled with my weight all my life. When I was in college and beyond, until I started to get it together, if I would walk in front of a plate glass window or a mirror or anything, I would look at myself and I would speak hate to myself. Self-loathing, and you're disgusting, you're fat, you're an animal, you have no discipline, blah 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 blah. Just awful, awful, awful. And it reflected in my attitude. All decisions I take, 100%, I own them. But when you're in that much pain, it's difficult to be a decent human being. It was for me. So when I started, everybody wants to. If you have 100 pounds to lose, which I did, everybody wants to lose 100 pounds in 3 months and then be done, right? What I decided to do was, if I lost a pound a week and allowed myself to plateau after 25 weeks, and just relax my body a little bit, and then kind of, while still exercising and eating properly, and then start again and lose another 25, in a couple of years, I'd be at my goal. And that is what happened. So
Wow.
I didn't cannibalize my body. What goes on, I think, a lot of times with cats that are losing weight. I have a friend in Baltimore who is actually a lifestyle coach. And I don't think he would mind me mentioning his name, Scott Stanfield. Is he
Oh my gosh, I've seen his transformation on Facebook.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And now he does it as part of what he does for a living. He is encouraging and guiding other people. It's phenomenal. But the average, and listen, whatever works for for whoever is wanting to get fit, whatever works for you. The thing that scares me about certain programs is lose 100 pounds and never exercise.
Right.
It to me, and the way it worked for me, because basically what I did was I started here on muscle and I started here on fat. I lost a bunch of fat and I gained muscle, and I still lost 100 pounds. The problem with losing weight fast is that your body cannibalizes itself. It eats the muscles, and we, as we all know, we have 200 muscles in this area, plus your diaphragm. And on those macro muscles, those little teeny muscles, if you lose 10% of your core strength, it's really not that big a deal, right? But if you lose 10% in those teeny tiny muscles, and that's where it goes. And Scott, although he's well on his way back to being a phenomenal player and band leader, he ran into some problems. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. I can only tell you what worked for me. And I think the reason why I didn't lose, I'm playing better today than I have in my whole life.
That's terrific.
At 57 years old, just most of it is just because I'm not just sort of aimlessly blowing my brains out. I'm playing more efficiently, which has been something that's been crazy for me, because I was always, I use a lot of air, and I use this, that, and the other, big macho trumpet player. I played a large bore Calicchio in the 90s. It was a 470. It was like a trombone.
Right.
So I think that's what's going on. I don't know what Wayno did, whether he lost quickly or not, but I think it's temporary, because once you level out at your weight and you get the diet thing back together, maybe like chocolate cake or ice cream or donuts, or there are certain things that you could take out of your diet forever. Although chocolate cake is really wonderful and yummy. Might be alcohol, might be beer or whatever the deal is. My theory on the whole thing is, whatever you do, your cardio you have to love. If you hate running, do not be a runner. If you love swimming, find yourself a pool and swim. If you love getting on a bike, which I do, both of those things, get a bike, ride a bike. Because a 313 pound man on a bicycle, you ride for an hour, you burn 750, 800 calories without even blinking an eye. And if you do that every day for a year, you're where you want to be. So I think slow and steady wins the race on that, just like trumpet.
Right.
Pick the trumpet up in the morning and say, I'm going to blister through Clark 2. And none of us do. But eventually...
yeah, I've never blistered through it. I mean, I've calloused my way through it,
It's the same theory with this, and I've told this to young players. Man, I really need to get this song up to tempo. Okay, where's your tempo now? The tempo now is at 100. What do you need to get it to? I need to get it to 133, 134. How long do you have? I have 6 weeks. I said, start at 100, and tomorrow, put your metronome on 101. It's not going to feel like a lot of progress, but in a week you're going to be at 107, and in 2 weeks you're going to be at 115, and at the end of the 6 weeks you're going to be at 140, and 134 is going to feel like a funeral march to you.
Amen.
One tick at a time. So a man who weighs 313 pounds loses 1 pound a week and needs to lose 100 pounds. In 2 years you are at your goal. How long did it take you to get to 313 pounds? That's what I said to myself. My entire life, I was 39 years old at the time. My entire life, 39 years it took me to get to 313 pounds, the heaviest I had ever been. It did not I wasn't 175 pounds with a 6-pack ab, and the next morning I woke up and I had gained, 125 pounds. Just didn't happen that way. So you can't lose it faster than you gained it. It's just not practical.
Yeah.
Again, trumpet player, I'm kind of dumb, but that's what worked for me.
Well, it doesn't sound dumb to me. Sounds like good experience, and you know, just because it's anecdotal doesn't make it any less true,
Right.
right? I mean, and what you said, everybody's going to find their path, but I think if you find your path, you're going to find that the paths are pretty similar, right?
They are.
So, well, I appreciate you sharing that. You know, that can be kind of a tough thing to open up about, but thanks for that.
I have another thing, and I've told this story before, and I'll keep it short because I know I can be, good God, long-winded.
Hey, I'm in charge of editing. I can cut whatever I want out of here, right?
I think you're going to want to cut this one because this is amazing. If you go to Trumpet Vinnie on Instagram and you look at what I call the blue screens, they're little clips, 15-second clips of the stuff that we do in the studio. And some of them are good and some of them are great. Some of them are off the charts. And, we just moved. And we're still working on our internet. I'm sure it's on my end.
I don't know. We have Spectrum, and it goes out. Oh my gosh, it's insane. It's insane. So, all right, you were getting ready to talk about at Trumpet Vinny Instagram. You're talking about these
Right.
samples, right?
If you go over to Trumpet Vinny and you look at the blue screens, it's a sampling of really the body of work for the last couple of years. There's probably hundreds of them on there, and so because of the way the trumpet world is, you don't establishing credibility it can be a difficult thing. Like if I see a comment online and I really agree with it or I disagree with it, I always go to the person's music page or and see what they're all about to kind of make sure. So my Instagram account establishes my credibility as a player. Okay, so when I was 25 years old, I was on a gig. We were loading in. I was playing in a rock and roll band. We did, well, it wasn't really rock and roll. It was like Chicago, Earth, Wind and Fire, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Motown. I mean, it was a great band. It was a lot of fun. We're loading into a club, and I used to hold my sneezes in. I sneezed. And I felt this almost like an electrical shock on the back of my head, like about the size of a quarter. And I was like, wow, that was really weird, really hurt. I didn't think anything of it. Next morning, when I woke up, that spot on the back of my head, about that big, was numb. Completely numb. Like dead to the world, like numb. So I didn't really, I went to the doctor and they thought I had sprained my neck. They had me in a collar and all that kind of stuff, and I'm playing in a collar. And a couple days later, I did it again, and it came over top, all on the left side, came over top and down the front of my face to about here. It's like somebody took a car battery and put it at the bottom of a big oak tree during the winter, and that's what it felt like.
Right.
The next day, when I woke up, I couldn't feel the left side of my face or my head. So the doctors are feverishly working. Then it happened again, and it went down the entire left side of my body. So if you drew with a magic marker from the top of my head, straight down, chops, everything on the left side is still numb today.
Even now.
So I had an operation when I was 25 years old, and they went in. It's called, what I have is called a syrinx. And basically what it is it's a long, very narrow cyst inside of your spinal cord that puts pressure on the left side. And it manifests itself in a lot of different ways, but a worst case scenario is numbness. Now, what I can do is, this is a miracle. I can hold that in my hand. When I got out of the hospital when I was 20, my dogs.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you over that.
All right, hold on a sec. They know they're in trouble.
They just wanted airtime.
Yeah, they did. So it's called a syrinx, and it's called like syringiomyelitis, some long medical name. So when I got out of the hospital, I could not walk because I couldn't tell where my left heel was hitting the ground. So I left everybody leaves the hospital in a wheelchair, but I really needed one. Got in the car. For years and years and years, there was no physical therapy. There was no follow-up. It was only the second time they had ever done the operation. They flew this big machine in from Boston. They cut open the back of my head, took my vertebrae off, put a shunt in. So they put it in the syrinx, and it drains and dissipates down my spinal cord. Okay, so for 32 years, I have not been able to feel the left side of my body. My hand, when I first started playing again, which was not too long afterwards, I would have to take the horn and kind of guide it. I would have to take the horn and I'd have to guide it into my hand because I couldn't tell where I was putting my fingers.
Wow.
I had to relearn how to play. For a long, long time, I hoped through spinal cord injury research and all that kind of stuff that maybe they could help. So earlier this year, right around the first of the year, I had an appointment with a neurologist. And I was just nervous because I thought, man, my career's been pretty cool. What if I could feel my face? I mean, what kind of damage could I do to the music world if I could feel my face? So I went in and I sort of explained what was going on, and he got a picture of it and very unceremoniously and very doctor-like said, so you're asking about the feeling in your face if you're going to get your feeling back? And I said, yeah. And this moment, 32 years I've been building up to this moment, hoping. He said, nah, you're never getting that back. Just cut my head off. So my immediate response was, holy crap, what am I going to do? But then I thought, I've been living more than half of my life with this. And again, I've had a prolific career. I ride a bike. I have decent balance. I got a great life. Sometimes, my hand flops around like, it's just, it is what it is. Everybody has something. But now I know. I know what I'm dealing with. So I know, and I said, okay, one more question. Will it ever get worse? And he said, no, it'll never get worse. So it's never going to get better, but it's never going to get worse. So I know exactly every day what I'm going to wake up to. So this is what I say. Like I see trumpet players online now that are like, I have no hope, and I don't even know why I'm practicing now, and the world is coming to an end. And I have to say bullcrap, because even though we all have something, some of it is our personality, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that. Some guys are just jerks, you know what I mean? But everybody's got something, whether it's a limp, or you can't see, or you can't hear, or you got to, whatever it is. Everybody has something to deal with. This, for me, has been a big deal for a long time. When you come at me, and I don't mean you, Larry, of course, but when somebody comes at me and says, I can't get motivated to practice, if they can sit through and listen to the last 3 minutes of this story, and at the end of it, not say, especially if they're whole-bodied, if they have all of their facilities, if they can feel, I want you to imagine what it's like. Now, I'm not talking about, do you know what it feels like when your foot is dead asleep? Not pins and needles, but when you wake, when you stand up and you fall down.
Yep.
That's what everything on the left side of my body feels like 24 hours a day for the last 32 years. Now, if that doesn't motivate you to practice, then you should quit playing the trumpet and do something else, because I have been handed a hand of cards that was not a winning hand. And somehow, through 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 hours a day of practicing, tenacity, discipline, trying to be a good human being, taking care of the rest of my health, I've turned it into, Trent Austin said, one of the most recorded trumpet players in the United States. 6,000 recordings. That may or may not be true, but it sounds cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, right.
So, if people don't get one other thing out of this podcast interview, then be motivated and be thankful for what you have, no matter what it is. Then you're barking up the wrong tree. You gotta think about what you're doing.
What you shared, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm inspired by what you've shared.
Good.
But it's the same thing if anybody's followed Ryan Anthony, and God rest his soul.
Yes.
But anybody followed him. If you want to complain about something, you only have to look to your neighbor, right? To your fellow trumpet player, your fellow man, your fellow well, a woman, your sister, your brother, whatever, who's going through something just a tiny bit worse,
Yeah.
and there's perspective, right? And you're part of this positive trumpet. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the.
Positive Trumpeters Worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great group.
Man, we were just Troy and I have been friends for a couple of years, man, and that cat, he just kind of out of the blue said, "Hey, man, I like your Instagram. What's up?" And we started talking. Just a boundless energy, Canadian cat, great trumpet player, really good human being. Josh and Axel and Armida, just the people that came together for that was incredible. And we saw so much. There are some famous trumpet sites that were kind of the only game in town for a long time. And look, trumpet players can be difficult.
Really?
I'm not sure if you realize that. I know this is an epiphany for you, but trumpet players can be difficult. And I don't know whether it's a chicken or egg thing, but you know, when you're putting it out there on the line, and you're the first person to get your head chopped off because you're playing lead, or you're playing the lead line, or you're playing in three-piece section, and you're the dude. Um, Man, that's got to warp you up a little bit. You know what I mean? But it is possible, as you know from doing 50 interviews in the last couple months, it is possible to be a decent human being and be a great trumpet player. So, came together with Troy, and he said, "Man, let's start this group because I'm tired of all the crap, groups online." And this, not everybody, obviously. There are some incredible groups online. At that time, the large majority of what we were seeing was just a whole lot of this, and it's just no fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
So we want to create a safe space. We're coming up on our 1 year anniversary in October. We're at 8,000 members right now.
That's fantastic.
I think we'll be 10,000 before the end of the year, and it's really a wonderful place. They're doing a lot of live streams. They're putting together frequently asked questions. One of the problems with the online world is that a new trumpet player is somewhat like a new Christian. New Christians are on fire. Man, they want to tell everybody in the whole world what is going on, God and the Holy Spirit, and woohoo! But they have no way of communicating it to them because they don't know the Bible, they don't know spirituality, they don't have an interpretation of what God has been telling them. They just know they feel like $1,000,000, right? New trumpet players are much the same way. Oh, I heard Maynard Ferguson for the first time, and I want to play like him. What mouthpiece do I use? How do I do that? What do I practice? What horn do I use? And this and that and the other thing. The problem is that the old timers, the old curmudgeoners, are like, here's another kid that wants to know how to. And instead of saying, "Hey, bro, let's do this. Let's do a Zoom call, and I'll kind of explain what's going on. I'll take 20 minutes out of my life and give you what I've learned over the last 45 years, which is
Right.
just invaluable." Instead of doing that, they just bust their balls. Pardon
Yeah.
my French.
Yeah.
And we want to create a safe space for people to ask those questions, to post videos, to just be goofball trumpet geeks. And man, what a great place to hang out. It's
I agree.
really wonderful.
I agree. And it's kind of my approach to interviews is I try not to research too much ahead of time. So I know I ask questions that are like every other trumpet player already knows the answer to. Right? And I'm thinking, well, I probably sounded like a total idiot or a moron asking that question. But I'm thinking, but there's an awful lot of people who wanted me to ask that question.
Right.
Right. So I don't care, man. I'm going to ask, and so yeah, I agree. That's a great place to go. And I see the questions that are posted, and you're right. It's like somebody who becomes a vegan. They're going to tell everybody right away, right? And all about it and try to convert you, right? And nothing against vegans, but
Not that
yeah.
there's wrong.
Yeah.
We had a Zoom meeting with all the principals with Positive Trumpeters Worldwide the other day. It's really great to see those guys, and like just like how much they've worked on their backgrounds, and
So due to some technical difficulties, that is where Vinnie's interview ended, at least as far as the video portion. There is about a 30-minute audio continuation. We did the rest of this by telephone. And of course, that audio is available for my Patreon patrons. If you'd like to become a subscriber, a supporter by Patreon, you can do that at www.patreon.com/studioHFL.